DoodleBud, thanks for stopping by. We're going to continue our testing with our own homemade airplane in a bottle, or mason jar, you could say, so we can test what happens to fountain pens on an airplane. Today, we're going to wrap it up, I think, but I have a theory on how you can fly with any pen, any ink level, and not have it leak. So I think I figured this out. Stay tuned, let's see what happens. So let's have a look at who we're testing today. We got an old Esterbrook J series with a little lever filler. We got the Visconti Homo Sapien, another vac filler. We got the Pilot 912. This has the Con 70 converter, so slightly different converter. This is the Wing Sung 699. So this has the Vacuumatic. So this little guy in the back here. Parker 51. This has got the Aerometric. Okay. Noodler's Ahab. And the TWSBI Eco is going to come back, make a guest appearance after it bled to death in front of us. And I'm going to make a prediction that I can make this pen, will not make this pen bleed. It will be in the jar, nib down, and it won't bleed one drop. Let's see how that turns out. I also have another prediction. Now, we'll see how it goes. I might be proven otherwise. But the Parker 51, the Aerometric, and potentially the Noodler's Ahab, this could be the surprise that these will do very well. Okay, so I was wrong. So this has the Aerometric filler. Actually, let me show you with the Noodler's Ahab, because this one's full and you can't see it. But in this guy, take it apart. You can see here there's that breather tube. Let's take it fully apart. There we go. So it goes right into the feed. Okay. Connects into the feed. You got the breather tube up here, slides up in there. What you're doing, what's going on is that breather tube, it's tough to see it here, but there's one in there. It's connecting the excess air up here down to the outside world out here, which will be at a different pressure when you're in the airplane. So the Aerometric and this guy work kind of the same for argument's sake. Now the reason I have strong feelings about this Aerometric, I bought this from someone. The gentleman services and sells vintage pens. He's huge into vintage pens, knows everything about them. Told me the story behind this filler. Okay, the Aerometric. This was made because the person flies. He was a pilot and he wanted to have a fountain pen he could take with him and not leak. And so he developed this system so that he could take it with him when he flew, and it didn't leak. So if anything, this should be the pen, but we will find out. So that's going to be my prediction. That's part of science. You make a prediction, but you're okay if you're wrong with it. And we'll also have a guest appearance by this guy. This did terrible too, and I couldn't fit this in the box, but this big old, now this one, I don't think this is going to do well. This is a eyedropper, but the Kiwi Jumbo AC, it's so huge. I don't think that will do well, but this guy as well that leaked everywhere, and you're actually going to want to leave it open. What? So let's get to it. Let's see how it goes. So first I thought we'd just do a quick explanation. I think a lot of people know this, but some don't. Okay, so why is there a problem with fountain pens flying? Okay, well, first of all, this is all full of ink. Trying to draw around the camera here. Let's just do it this way. Quick and dirty. Okay, so here's your fountain pen full of ink. As much as you can get it, whether it's cartridge converter, piston, whatever the system is. There's also going to be some air left over. And that air pressure, if you filled it, you know, whatever, sea level, let's just say, that's at 1 atmosphere. That's the air pressure of that air that's trapped in there. Now, you go into an airplane, okay, you're in an airplane, and it's pressurized cabin. That pressure is less than 1 atmosphere. Now you can check my first video about this. I can talk about it in the math and all that stuff, but that's the difference. So you got 1 atmosphere here, less than 1 atmosphere, and it needs to equalize. And if there's a lot of ink in the way, it's going to shoot it out. So we got to figure out, well, what's the best way to fly with this? Now everyone says you just do nib up. Okay, but let's think about this for a minute. The reason these two, they did very well when it was cap on, whether it was nib up or nib down, because they actually seal. Like on both these pens, there's an O-ring in there, right? And so it does a very good job of actually sealing the pen. So it keeps the outside atmosphere away from here. Nothing bad going to happen. But, you know, you want to maybe use these when you're flying. So the reason these did so bad when I opened it is now there's even if you try to fill this as much as you can, now if you try to do a super fill, but I'm just thinking the average user, even though this holds a lot of ink, there's still a lot of air left over, which means a lot of ink has to move out. Now I am curious if we did a measurement that the amount of ink we lost was equal to the amount of air that was in here. That'd be an interesting point. The Lamy, he was like, wow, that did so well. Actually, both cartridge converter pens did very well because even though you don't get it super full, there is a little bit of air, but it's not that much. Okay? So it really has to do with air displacement. So what I'm thinking, I think what's going to happen, we'll just assume not all caps perfectly seal a pen, which not many of them do, right? What I'm going to do is we're going to put these pens, nib up, cap off. We will start the vacuum, which means this air will be equalized with the outside air that's in the vacuum. That's awesome. And then while it's still in there, I'm going to turn the whole chamber around upside down so it's nibbed down. Okay, and I'm guessing this pen that just bled out like crazy, it's not even a shed one drop. Let's see, and I think we're going to have a method on how to store and use your pens regardless of how much ink is in here on an airplane. Let's see if we can come up with that, because that would be great. So I just inked up the noodlers, and if we can see here, we actually might have a bit of a problem. So there's the breather tube, but we're getting some ink kind of trapped in here and causing an air pocket. So the breather tube isn't really going to do what it wants, and we're gonna have to get rid of all that ink in the breather tube out of here for it to equalize. So that might turn out to be fatal for the noodlers. We'll see. On top of that, I heavily modified this feed way beyond you ever should, so it never railroads, but it is way too wet. So I'm curious now with the aerometric how this is going to do. But also, if we look at this, we're going to have to store, so you're going to actually have to be aware of your pens, okay? These, you actually want to store them nib down, okay? Because the air is up here, the tube connects to the air, and that way the air can equalize. Because if you do it this way, the air is up here, and that breather tube isn't going to function the way it's supposed to. So I'm kind of second guessing myself now on the aerometric, but we will find out, that we will pursue, and we will figure this all out. Look how giant this jumbo ACR is. It comes to the top of the jar. Oh my gosh. And just for a size comparison, I should almost maybe redo this review. I totally missed a bunch of info on it. But so this is the Ranga 9B. So it's a big pen. Look how much bigger this Kiwi is. We'll let it soak just for a brief moment, and then we'll see how it goes. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare for a rapid descent. The 912 looks good. The cap, sparkling clean. King Sung 601. I remember I was getting all my pens mixed up. 601. Oh, what's this? Let's just see. Just a drop. Oh, little tiny bit. The Visconti. Looking good. Astrobook lever filler. I'm curious because these just have an ink sac. Not very robust against controlling pressure. Pretty good. Looking good. That's a darker ink. That's old ink. Okay, we did great. Parker 51. Nib down. Let's see how we did. That's looking clean. Let's check the cap. Oh yeah, we definitely got some there. So I think what's going on there is that breather tube does get ink in it. And that ink's got to come out in order to stabilize. Same thing, the Noodler's Ahab was nibbed down. I'm not too confident in this one being a surprise. Oh my God. Oh boy. I gotta show you this before I clean it up. So never store your Ahab nib down. I'm going to have to try it again, nib up. Oh my God, this is going to take a few minutes. Okay, so I was wrong. And Ahab, you are a bad pen. Okay, so I ran it again. I mean, wouldn't you rather have this happen in your home instead of at 36,000 feet? I just saved someone some serious dry clean. So I put it back in, nib up. But when I open it, we're going to do it this way in case there's something in there. Okay, that looks way better. All right. Let's see if there's any surprises. There might still be some water and stuff from when I cleaned it. Okay, I got it pretty good. Now, you can imagine my reluctance to open an eyedropper. So I'm going to open it again this way. It was nib up. Okay. Okay, let's just... Looks reasonable. Wow! So now we're going to test this out. You're going to start off in the airplane, nib up. Well, unless, like as we saw on the Parker 51 aerometric, you got to know your filling systems now. That will be nib down. But we're going to start no caps, nib up. Now, when you are flying, you will put the cap on, but I can't take the cap off when I'm in the air chamber here, so I can't do it. So we'll do it, nib up, cap off. Then we're going to rotate the jar now that the pressure's been equalized. And I'm guessing nothing's going to flow out of there. Let's try that out. Vacuum filler, what I'm going to do, okay, cap off like the other ones. I'll wipe it off so it's clean. But this air chamber is now sealed off because this is closed. And the problem is, if you're going to use this on the plane, right? And you write, as soon as you run out of ink, you got to open this. Now the pressure has to equalize and out it goes. So we're actually going to do it like this. Now, if you're obviously in the plane, you would fly with it, nib up, cap on. And then when you get to cruising altitude, you take the cap off and then you crack it that way. But again, I can't manipulate the pen once it's in the chamber. So this is how I'm going to do the vacuum filler, is like this. So the pens are upright. And now we're going to start our flight. Okay, so we are at altitude. That means that air should have been sucked out of those pens. And now the outside pressure has matched the inside pressure that was stuck in the pens. Now, just for reference, this one sat out. I'm going to do this one by itself, so I still don't have a good feeling about this one. I think it's going to get ink everywhere. And same with this guy. I'll do those two by themselves. And the Parker 51, I'm going to have to run solo because I'm just going to essentially run it all by itself. Cap off, nib down. It should be okay. So here we go. And now what you're going to do, so you've reached cruising altitude. And now you've taken the cap off while the pen has been upright the whole time. Pressure is equalized. Even in these guys where it seals, the pressure is equalized. Now you want to use your pens. So you should be able to turn them over. Oh, come on, just a little down. Oh! I hope I didn't mess up any nibs. That would be an expensive experiment. So here we are. Nothing's leaking. So let's look at these. They're all doing great. Like both the Twisbys did terrible because there was so much air. It all came out. But what we did this time that was different. Last time we put them in nib down and create the vacuum. So of course, right away, it's going to suck that air out. But this time we did that with the nibs up so it could equalize the pressure. Now we go nib down. Nothing else is coming out. These are all doing totally fine. So that's how you're going to have to use your pens on the plane. Now that's the challenge. This is, you can control the orientation when you carry them on and you have your little, where's my pen pouch? So what you're probably going to do on the plane is have your pens with you in your little case probably, and put it in the seat back in front of you and just leave it there for the 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is, till you get up to cruising altitude. You know, you open the caps up. If you got a vac filler, open that up. So everything's equalized. Now you can use your pens. But now that air pressure and the pressure in here are the same, but the challenge is if you change air pressure. So for whatever reason they got to climb, Now that air pressure is different. Okay, we're losing pressure. It's not a perfect vacuum. I think it's this pump. But all of a sudden now, I have a feeling if we start climbing, for whatever reason, we're going to start to make these bleed a little bit. There we go. See? So now all of a sudden, this pressure is lower than what's inside the pen. That has to equalize. So just a slight change, and these are going to start to bleed now. Let's see how bad this gets. There we go. So definitely got some leakage. We definitely ruined your clothes and probably the person next to you. Okay, so now I am super interested in this guy. It's got that breather tube. Hopefully it does better than this guy. This is, I don't know what can get worse. But in theory, it should be able to adjust the pressure too live, right? So I'm going to put it in, cap off, nib down. We're going to climb to cruising altitude, hold it, and then we're going to go high like we did with the other ones and go back down. And if that design works like it should be able to handle all that. It can equalize the pressure regardless of what's going on. Let's see. Okay, so I got it going here. I'm going to start climbing. I thought I'd get you nice and close so we can watch this thing as we go. Okay, so we're up to altitude. We lost just a little drip. Okay. Okay, so let's climb it some more. Well, I mean, it's not as bad. But yeah, no, it's it's not terrible. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come down a bit, and then I'll go back up a little bit too. So let's go back down. We climbed very high. That's what you would never climb that high in a plane. Let's drop down. Okay, let's climb back up. Okay, now if you look at it, that's actually not very much ink at all. It's just a few drops. So, I mean, it's not perfect, but that's pretty impressive compared to the other ones. As soon as I climbed just a little bit, boof, everyone just bled out. So it actually did pretty decent. That's manageable. Okay, so we're at cruising altitude there. Yeah, the eyedropper here is already starting to go. The Noodler's is nothing like it was before. Let's turn it over and see. Again, don't smash the nibs. Gentle. The other pens were okay. I checked them. Tappy tap. Come on. What's the secret? Do I gotta roll it? Oh, that's the one. Okay, that's the way you do it. That's a drastic improvement. I'm curious why it's so different on the Noodlers. Okay, now, to be fair or unfair, let's climb just, oh, is that the Noodler starting to go again? It is leaking. Let's, yeah, they're not doing good. I think if we climb just a little bit, it's going to get real bad. Yep. Don't want to take those ones with you. So safe to say a eyedropper and the Ahab, at least a heavily modified one like mine where the feed channel is really cut open, are not ones you're going to take on the airplane with you, at least with ink in them. So after all the pens we tested, and we tested more than this in part 1, which pen has done the best so far? This guy, the Lamy All-Star. Now, I even gave this the worst case scenario. I started it in the chamber, nib down, pulled the vacuum, and it didn't shed a single tear. That is the worst case scenario. And this thing did awesome. So again, there's some more testing we can do, but we'll maybe do a cartridge converter comparison, because the other one too, the Jinhao 51A, that thing did amazing as well. Did pretty good too. Now this guy's interesting. We didn't do the pressure change tests on these guys yet. So, to confirm, we have to do that test as well. But this guy, I know it did leak a little bit, but this did very well on that pressure change test. Like, we went way up there on the vacuum. And again, it was like a couple, maybe a drop, maybe two tops compared to all the other ones. They just bled out. So I'd like to run that test on these ones as well, on top of some other tests. So, but yeah. Okay, so what did we figure out here? Obviously, the things we've all heard about having the pens full. Whatever system you have, you want to have it full to reduce the air. That is true. The nib up stuff, yes, that is true. Well, hold on, depending on the filling system, because as we saw, you got to do nib down with an aerometrics, and there could be other filling systems. So you got to make sure that however your filling system works, there's no ink in the way for the excess air within the pen. Whatever pen you got, don't forget we had to do this, right? Whatever air is in the pen has easy access to the outside world. That's the first thing we got to make sure. If we follow that procedure and equalize the air pressure, you can use that pen in the airplane no problem once you're at cruising altitude. But as we saw, a little change in cabin pressure, which it can fluctuate during the flight, that can have a drastic impact, as we saw, on your pen and the ink flying out of here. So if you're going to bring some inked fountain pens on the plane with you, I would say have them in a case, and you need to keep them with you. If you're going to put them in your carry-on luggage and put them in the overhead bin or under the whatever, and things can move. Someone accesses stuff and moves your bag, and now your pens are this way. It could be a disaster. Now, if you have ones that seal very well, it should be okay. But unless you're going to have them with you that you can control the orientation, I would say just don't ink it. It's not worth it. And then follow that procedure. You got to know your filling system, because maybe that pen has to be upside down instead of nib up. It's got to be nib down. And you also have to be mindful of your elevation changes and follow that procedure again when you're going down and stuff like that too. So you got to put a little work into this. Now, there is one very simple solution to this whole thing. And that is why we have evolved past the fountain pen onto a simple little ballpoint that you don't have to do this with. They're not terrible, right? I mean, you can get ones that are kind of cool. This one, it wasn't overly expensive, little Conklin one, and it's even got a cool kind of clip. It's kind of spring loaded, so you put it out and boink, kind of cool. But I know we don't like those things, but they do work exceptionally well and don't have all these issues. If you got to use your Visconti, you can't live without it no matter what. We got to pay attention. You got to know the rules of operation. And if you are going to check pens in your luggage, oh my God, don't ink them. Do not ink them. Or if you really want to and clean up the mess afterwards, put them in a Ziploc or a container or a special case that's maybe sealed so it keeps the outside air pressure outside. That's a lot of work. I would just say maybe don't ink them unless you can control the orientation of the pen and all that stuff. And then take an inkwell with you or cartridges or whatever you're going to do. There's still some more testing we can do after I clean this out. I have a tip for a traveling inkwell. I think this is going to be the cheapest inkwell you can get. And I think it will handle pretty much any pressure we can throw at it. Again, just the thought. We'll have to test it. But there we go. I did this just even for me. If I didn't even make videos, I'd be doing this down here, playing around to know this for myself. So I thought, let's make a video and put it on the internet. So hopefully this has helped you. You can see how serious I was about doing this. So give me a like and subscribe for all this work. This took hours. Anyways, thanks again. We'll be back. We'll do some more stuff and, of course, reviews and other things. I got other ideas. We got the microscope I want to play with a bit and do some other things. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon next time. Bye for now.